4x4 auto versus two-wheel drive. Why do dealer techs not go along with what the manufacturer says? And some clarification on a video that was put out a little while ago, back when I was at Dundee Ford, before they closed down, where I went through and broke down step by step what 4x4 auto is used for, four-wheel drive is used for in general, and how I would personally recommend engaging 4x4 auto and four-wheel drive on your vehicles that have the auto function. Now, if your vehicle already has 4x4 auto and that's the only way that it can be used, it's stuck in 4x4 auto, that's how the manufacturer has it set, then by all means do what you got to do. You got to run it how you got to run it, right? But on like an F-150 like mine here, some of a setting right here that says 4x4A. Some SUVs only have 4x4A. The reason I bring this up is because there's a lot of confusion on what you can get away with versus what you should be doing. As a technician in the field that's been doing this for over 20 years, we see failures in vehicles and we report them back to you guys, and we give our professional recommendations, and we talk about what we think, based on our opinion and what we see in the field, is right and wrong. And back in 2014, 2015, GM started seeing vehicles, their trucks that were being run in 4x4 auto all the time. They were actually getting stuck in 4x4 auto, or 4x4 in general. I had back when I was at Billywood Ford years ago in Gino, Louisiana, I had a Silverado traded in. It was stuck in four-wheel drive. I had to literally pull the transfer case motor off of it, manually shift the gear inside, and then order a new transfer case motor, because that vehicle being stuck in four-wheel drive was a result of that vehicle being run in 4x4 auto all the time. And back then they had a bulletin. There was a bunch of talk on Reddit and everywhere else where they were saying, look guys, we're recommending that you don't run these vehicles around in 4x4 auto. You can even talk to Brandon from Performance Transmission. He's a GM specialist and a Ford specialist. Really, he builds Ford transmissions, Chrysler transmissions, GM transmissions. But he's a really, really good GM specialist, and he will tell you the same thing. He's got over 1 million followers on TikTok, and I don't know that he's really doing too much on YouTube anymore, even though he is here. He'll even tell you the same thing. The technicians themselves that see the failures in the field don't recommend customers driving around in 4x4 auto all the time. There is a little bit more wear that happens. There's at minimal, there's 10% increase in load on the front end when there's no demand, because it's a ramp up bearing. Some of them are a bearing style, some of them are a clutch style drive where they actually engage the 4x4. If you don't need 4x4, typically 10% is transferred to the front, but the diff is not locked in. And now I have a lot of people say, well, when should I put it in 4x4 auto? Well, if you're thinking, if you're seeing the road is wet, icy, or snowy, and you're just not sure if two-wheel drive is going to cut it, you need to allow for slippage. You don't want binding up in the 4x4 system. Even in 4x4 auto in really tight turns, if you put it in 4x4 auto sometimes, like I had a Bronco that came in, that's my famous video on the channel for 4x4 issues. It was a Bronco that came in, and I think the guy didn't even have 15,000 miles on it yet, and the transfer case was smoked. And he would say he run around in 4x4 auto all the time, and with the transfer case being smoked, he said, let's go for a test drive. I'll take you out in the parking lot and I'll show you what I'm talking about. When I'm turning tight into these parking spots, I'm noticing there's some kind of binding, almost like a chattering sound, real lightly coming from underneath the vehicle. So I went out in the parking lot with him, and he says, watch, I'm going to back up into this spot right here. And he cranks the wheel all the way to the right, and he backs up into the spot. Sure enough, I hear the sound. He says, now let's go drive, and let's just make a gradual turn into a parking spot. I heard it a little bit, but not as much. And then he did it forward, he did it back. He showed me a bunch of times. I went out, tried it myself, and I said, how about we take it out of 4x4 auto and put it in two-wheel drive? So we took it out of 4x4 auto and put it in two-wheel drive, and the vehicle ran flawlessly. That 10% that it was trying to apply to the front and the damage and stuff that had already been done was really affecting how that 4x4 auto worked. And at that point, I was able to demonstrate to the customer why 4x4 auto is not this great thing to have engaged all the time. So I put a new transfer case in, and I still have that transfer case. It's one of the 4x4 autos that's in the 2.7 liter EcoBoost or the 2.3, I think, EcoBoost. I have one. It's all rebuilt. Because it was customer pay, there was another situation where the vehicle had been actually towed incorrectly as well, and it messed up that four-wheel drive system because of how it was towed. That's what finished it off, but the damage was already there before the tow. So I ended up putting a brand new Borg Warner unit in it, taking that other unit, replacing the clutch pack and stuff in it, cleaning it completely out, and resealing everything. I still have it today. I should go get it and break it down and show you guys how the transfer case is actually, how it works and how it supplies lubrication to the different components. There's no pump. It's actually by motion of the 4x4 system working, it slings the fluid everywhere. Let's see. Now, I tell people, if it's wet, if it's icy, if it's snowy, if it's muddy, and you're not sure if your two-wheel drive is going to cut it, and the road is already slippery, 4x4 auto is not a bad thing to have the vehicle in. Because the wheels need to be able to slip if they need to, and slide if they're binding up. That's what has to happen. If you read most manuals, they say only use four-wheel drive whenever there's a wet, slippery road of some sort, because that four-wheel drive, when it binds up, you don't want hard mechanical binding. You want it to be able to slip, get out of it, continue. Slip, get out of it, continue. In 4x4 auto, what was happening in that parking lot was it was still trying to engage the front end a little bit. It wasn't locking in the diff, but it still locks in the axles. The axles are still turning. There's 10% more power going there. And it was just enough to notice that would cause some kind of wear. That would reduce fuel mileage a little bit. I get people all the time that say, I've run my vehicle 140,000 miles, and it's still no problem at all. Well, that's great for you. Good for you. Do what you do. For the people that actually care, that want to listen to the information, this is for you. If you want your vehicle to last a long time and you don't see that, if it's dry pavement, there's no wetness, there's nothing going on, you don't need to be in 4x4 auto. Two-wheel drive is plenty enough to be in. Just be smart about it. You don't need 4x4 auto. That's just the cold, hard truth. There are people in the comment section of this video that are going to try to justify it. There are people in this comment section that haven't made it this far in the video that are going to talk all their shit down there just like they did in the previous video. But understand, I'm not talking to those people. I'm going to politely and plainly ignore them. I'm talking to the people that want to understand what I'm saying. 99.9% of technicians out there do all agree. If you have the option to put it in two-wheel drive or four-wheel drive, use those options. 4x4 auto is something I typically wouldn't use unless I was kind of questioning whether or not I needed it on this type of road. Slippery road of some sort. Now, the other thing that was thrown in my face was, man, when I put it in sport mode, it engages 4x4 auto on its own. So the truck wants it to be that way. Well, yeah, there's something called planned obsolescence. There's also something called the manufacturer knows that you can run it that way for a while, but once it's outside of warranty, they're not on the hook for that $3,000 bill for that transfer case or that $1,000 bill for new CV axles in the front. They're not on the hook for that. You are. So yeah, go ahead and run it in sport and 4x4 and everything else. It's in sport mode, having 4x4 on. It's a good idea. The reason it's a good idea is because if you're trying to go in a straight line, let's just say you're an F-150 that's built and you're at the track and you're making your new personal best run and you have it in sport mode, four-wheel drive, whatever it may be, or just out on the street and you're screwing around out in the middle of nowhere and you're racing your buddy. Having it in four-wheel drive in a straight line with minimal turning, it's not going to bind up anything. It's not going to hurt anything. But when you go to start making turns and stuff like that and pulling into parking spots and everything else in 4x4 auto, In sport mode, yes, you will start doing some additional wear that's unnecessary for the vehicle. 4x4 auto is used. 4x4 auto, no, let me take that back. Sport mode is typically used if you're running in a straight line or you're off-roading. That's it. If you're running in a straight line where there's no damage, 4x4 or sport mode, 4x4 auto will engage automatically. You're good to go in a straight line. Or if you're off-roading and you have it in sport mode, you're good to go however you need to, because there's slippage, there's road conditions there that actually accommodate the four-wheel drive. But if you're on dry pavement and you're running around everywhere in sport mode and keeping 4x4 active, you're not the brightest crayon in the box if you're trying to justify it. All I'm doing is trying to clear up this misconception that just because you can, just because you do, means everybody else should as well. There are plenty of vehicles that can be driven in 4x4 all the time, but those manufacturers make those vehicles to be that way. They're all-wheel drive type systems that are much smarter than a regular 4x4 type system. There are some similarities, and there are some things that aren't similar. They're completely different. And there are different types of four-wheel drive systems, all-wheel drive systems. Maybe we can get into that in the future. But you regular truck owners out there, I don't care if it's a Ford, a Chrysler, a Chevy, running around in 4x4 auto on dry pavement on clear days is an absolute idiotic thing to do. That's it. And there's all the reasons why. If you need any more than that, then I'm not the guy for you. I'm going to link my previous video down below so you guys can see the video and how I actually go through all the information and how it works. And then go to the comment section and look at all the people that try to fight me over it. It's absolutely ridiculous. I can show you post upon post upon post on Reddit and everything else where there are technicians on there that are telling you, please don't run this in four-wheel drive. Or guys saying, man, my stuff is stuck in four-wheel drive now. I run it in 4x4 auto all the time. Or, man, I'm putting a transfer case in my vehicle now because this 4x4 auto really screwed up my transfer case. But I bet you guys won't go look at regular people's testimonials that aren't influencers like myself, mechanics like myself. Bet you won't go look at them, because if you did, you'd almost be proving yourself wrong. But then you'd probably still lie to yourself and tell yourself that you're right. It's human beings. We do dumb shit like that. But anyhow, I hope you all have a great day. Be blessed. I love you all. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting the channel. If you like videos like this where I get into stuff like this and get emotional and dramatic and I start explaining things, thumb up the video. Leave me a comment down below and subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. Consider being a channel member. I have really good channel members here, and they get different access than other people do. Like if they need me, if they need a call during the middle of the day, if they need help on a vehicle, any one of them can pick up the phone and call me if they just send me a message and say, hey, what's your number? I need some help. Consider being a channel member because you get those royalties that you don't have now if you're not a channel member. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.